It doesn't go unnoticed that on this channel you guys are sick of SUVs. Every other manufacturer seems to be producing the same car just in a different package. And I have to agree to an extent. Sure, it's my job to cover these cars, but SUVs do get a little bit tiring sometimes. So today I've got a little bit of a treat for us all. I've got the antidote to SUVs. This is the XEV YoYo Pro. And I can't wait to tell you all about it in this video. I have had some brilliant fun spending some time with this car. It's got a range of 90 miles, a top speed of around 60 miles per hour, and it charges in just 4 hours. What's there not to love? Hi guys, I'm Tish and welcome back to my channel Auto Social UK. Before we get stuck into the YoYo review, here's a word from our sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Juice Up, the EV charging app that lets you share and monetize your home charger. Offering bookable, affordable and reliable EV charging, the app has some great features and is really easy to use. And by using the promo code AUTOSOCIAL at sign up, you'll receive an amazing 180 days free use. Click the link in the description box to download Juice Up for Android or iPhone and head to juiceup.com for any more information on how you can start earning money from your home charger. Thank you to Juice Up and back to the video. First of all, let's start by talking about the styling, because this thing has been turning some serious heads whilst I've been driving it. I mean, look at it. It's amazing, right? Sure, it's a little bit controversial, but it definitely gives me Twizzy vibes. It reminds me of those small smart cars. It's two-seater only and it's absolutely minute, as I'm sure you can tell by this video, but I really love it. Now, if this mint green paint colour isn't quite to your taste, then there are some more subtle colours in blacks, greys and whites. You could also get some really cool neon elements as well, but I really like it. It's got that classic cutesy styling of these small electric cars. You've got those really emotive headlamps. Of course, it does have some of its negatives, and the negatives are the size. This thing is really, really tiny, although it does feel relatively spacious inside. Let me show you. Now, first of all, I have got to mention that I'm only the second person to take delivery of this car. So there's still plastic in some areas, but nobody wants to be the person that unwraps it. I don't feel like I have the authority to do that. Inside of the YoYo, I've been really impressed. Now, don't get me wrong, there are cheaper elements, and a lot of this car is actually 3D printed, and you can tell that by the dashboard is a little bit plasticky, but really that's like every micro car that I've ever driven. And that's the negatives, but let's move on to the positives, because there's quite a few of them. You've got a lovely steering wheel with some contrast stitching around the centre. You've got some dials on there as well, including for your volume, and then you've also got to change your tracks, which I think is brilliant. And these seats are really lovely as well. So you've got some kind of perforated leather effect seats, and these are really comfortable. They've got loads more cushioning than you'll find in, for instance, the Citroen Ami. And you even get a centre armrest, which slides forwards, which feels, you know, premium, at least for this type of car. You also get a really nice infotainment system as well. Once again, not always standard in a vehicle like this. And it works really well. And mostly what I'm impressed with is you get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now, down here you actually get some physical climate control dials, and it does come with aircon, which I'm so pleased about. You've got a start-stop button, and also this car is keyless. Moving down to the centre console, you've got a dial for changing your gears, you've got a cup holder up front, and you've also got electric windows. And something else that I think is really great about this car, you've not only got a USB charger there, you've also got two USB-C and USB charger in the passenger side as well. So I really think that's brilliant for this car. I mean, let's face it, it does feel a little bit basic in some areas, and storage is a little bit limited. You've got a little bit inside of the armrest, and you can reach round to the boot from the interior of the car. You've also got a few little places you can pop items, but ultimately there isn't tons of storage in here. But that doesn't worry me, and overall it feels really good. And last but not least, you also get a really nice split sunroof. As you can imagine, with a micro car, it does have a micro boot. There's just a small amount of space behind the passenger and driver. And I haven't got any mini suitcases, but I have got this mini trunk. All the suitcases are up the loft. So I'm going to demonstrate, actually, that slots quite nicely in there. So you could easily fit a couple of small carry-on suitcases side by side, which I think is all you need, really.
Welcome to XEV.
So this here begins the start of what could be an interesting journey. I went into London to collect this car yesterday around XL, and it cost me £32.10 to get from Suffolk to get to Stratford. So that's not even my full journey. I then had to pay for the tube on top of that. So that's here. So as you can see, that's my history of my bookings. That cost me £32.10. Now I appreciate I haven't got any rail cards and I went peak as well, so I am going at the most expensive time. But the task is to get back to London in the Yo-Yo on the amount of range that it has for cheaper. And you might be thinking, surely that's just an easy job, Tish. If it has 92 miles, you can't be that far from London. Well, I am 65 miles away from London. And I know that sounds like I'll have a little bit left over, but those of you who are used to driving electric vehicles will know, for instance, the Mini Electric used to be able to do 140 miles, but realistically, it only had 90. So if the Yo-Yo is the same as something like the Mini Electric, that could mean it will take me ages, because I'll have to stop on the way to get a little bit more charge, which is not ideal. So it's going to be a hell of a test. Now, on top of this as well, I am going to avoid motorways on this journey. So usually the journey is about an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes. It's going to take 2 hours, and that's because we're avoiding motorway journeys. So here you are. This is my journey into London. The reason why I've picked a route which avoids motorways is because the Yo-Yo has a top speed of 56 miles per hour. So as much as you could drive on the motorway, it might be a little bit irritating to other drivers, and also I don't feel the most confident in a car this small being on the motorway. So instead, I've avoided motorways, and it's going to take me probably about half an hour longer, but I don't really see that as too much of an issue. So let's get on the journey, and this is going to be an interesting one. Powering the Yo-Yo is a small 10.4 kilowatt hour battery, but that gives you an all-electric driving range of 92 miles, which I actually think is pretty impressive. Sure, a lot of people will say, I need loads more mileage, but then this isn't the car for you. This is a car for nipping to the shops and doing shorter journeys. And actually, talking about that, did you know in 2022, the average person drove 8.1 miles per day, meaning that you could get over 10 days worth of use out of your Yo-Yo. Not only that, but the average commuter's journey is 20 miles. So this is more than sufficient for both of those people. Not everyone is going to be suited to this car, but then they're not trying to market to everybody. But actually, so far, I'm really quite impressed. The steering is quite nice. It's not really that precise. It's a little bit sloppy in places, but I definitely don't feel like it's lacking in confidence. In fact, I just feel like I'm driving a normal car, which apparently, chatting to the people that designed this, is exactly what they wanted to do. They didn't want to produce something which was really quirky and awkward to drive. They wanted to produce something which had aircon, which had all the mod cons, like having your Apple CarPlay, and I'm really impressed with this Apple CarPlay as well. To have wireless Apple CarPlay in a car like this just feels really cool, and everything works really well, and it's got everything you need. It has got a one pedal drive, so it also gains a little bit of power back in regenerative braking, although it's not quite powerful enough to bring you to a complete stop, but it will slow you down, which is pretty good. And there's no ways of adjusting it, but I don't really think it needs a way of adjusting it. The proof really is going to be in the pudding, because if this car can do 90 miles, then I really think this is a hell of a car to invest in. But if it can only do half of what it says it can do, yeah, that's going to be a little bit disappointing. Charging is something which concerned me a tiny bit at first. So you can charge it either via a wall box, or you can also charge it via a 3-pin plug. But it doesn't charge particularly fast, although it takes about 4 hours to get that full 91 miles. But what blew me away is that when I plugged the YoYo in last night after my long journey back from London, this car cost me in the morning under £3 to get those 91 miles. And I'm not even on a dedicated EV tariff, so I think that's really impressive. The only downside is you can't speed up that process of 4 hours because it can only charge at sort of under 4 kilowatts. And that means that if you're doing a long journey, you're going to have a long stopover if you want to charge halfway. But that kind of just solidifies where this car sits in the market. It is a city runaround for you to plug in when you get home, rather than taking on those long journeys. We've just hit the traffic of central London, and this is a good opportunity for me to give you a bit of an update at where we are on range. So it's good and bad. The bad is not necessarily the YoYo's fault. So I used Apple Maps yesterday to get back from London, and it took me this most glorious scenic route through the back roads of Brentwood and Chelmsford, and it was really lovely, and it took me through to Braintree and then on to Suffolk, and it was such a nice journey. But today I've been using my Google Maps, and it has insisted, no matter what I tried, on putting me on the A12 all the way. So for about an hour and a half of this journey, it's been sitting on the A12. So that means this car has been flat out at its maximum speed of 56 miles per hour. And I did feel at times a little bit like I was hindering some people's journeys. It made me laugh, the people that insisted on sitting behind me, because I had an excuse for going 56 miles per hour, but they didn't, which was a little bit odd. But it wasn't too bad, actually. The car remained really well composed. I was surprised about how composed it still felt on a high-speed road. But, of course, having foot flat to the pedal the whole way has affected its range very slightly. So, at the moment, we have got 22 miles of range left on the YoYo, and I've got about 10 miles left until my destination. So we've got around 10 miles spare, and that means that there's about 10-15 miles that have gone walkabouts. I don't think that's too bad, considering this car has been at its full capacity the entire time. And yesterday it was off by 1 single mile. So I managed to get back and only lose a mile. But as I said, those journeys were much more suited to this car. This is not really its average journey, but still, it looks like we're quite comfortably going to get there. The YoYo was designed in Turin, Italy, and is built in Shanghai, China. At just under £16,000, it's nearly double the cost of a Citroen Ami, which sounds worth it considering it's far superior in every way. It's also £10,000 cheaper than the current most affordable electric car in the UK, the BYD Dolphin. But the biggest thorn in the side of the YoYo is the Dacia Spring, which in its entry form is actually slightly cheaper, not to mention having 2 more seats, more range, and a higher top speed. So why buy the YoYo over a Spring? Well, pure joy is my answer, for the same reason that people have mourned the loss of the Renault Twizzy. Sometimes you just can't beat quirky. I really had my reservations when I first collected this car that it would be really hard to drive it on higher speed roads, and those long distances were going to be an issue with the 92-mile range if it couldn't actually achieve that figure. But I've been really pleasantly surprised at pretty much every turn with this car. It's got loads of technology. That range is absolutely spot on as long as you're not sitting in sport mode and you've got your air conditioning on. You've got loads of usable features. It charges so cheap. I can't believe that this car cost me under £3 when the train yesterday to London cost me over £32. So it's less than 10% cheaper than getting the train. Sure, it's not perfect. I certainly wasn't expecting it to be perfect, and it does feel cheap in some areas, and when you get up to higher speeds, it can feel a little bit unnerving. But I really think that if you're just using this car to run around, to sit alongside your family SUV, it's brilliant. But let me know, what do you think of the YoYo Pro? Pop it in the comments down below. I really hope you have enjoyed the video. If you have, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to see more, then hit the subscribe button. Until next time, guys, see you later.